You notice we've got a lot of explosion about LED here. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I think, was it 3 years ago, there was no LED here. I'm now they're everywhere, right? So obviously direct view LED, finer pixel pitch, things like that. Continued expansion on projector. We've been talking a lot about that. It's still like 30% of the digital signage industry is actually run on projection. People don't realize that. A lot of projection mapping. We're seeing all this projection mapping on ice. We're seeing it on basketball courts. We're seeing it on swimming pools. So we're seeing a lot of that stuff happening. The other thing that we're seeing, the big question that everybody talks about is embedded computing on the screen. So SoC, System on a Chip platform. Something we introduced very recently was a Raspberry Pi, which is a totally different angle to System on a Chip, and it's an open source platform. So instead of having something that's built into the display that you can never service or remove, it's actually a serviceable, removable type of technology. You're going to see a lot of expansion on computing power in the displays themselves. We're seeing a lot more around touch interactivity. We've seen a lot of that at the show this year. We're going to continue to see a lot more of that, bigger screens, more multi-touch capability, not relying on single points. So we're going to see a lot of that. That self-service business is such a massive growing space. So I've been with NEC almost 17 years, right? And so when I started with NEC, our business was the display side, 85% of it was CRT desktop displays. We had a small amount of LCDs, and we had 14-inch, we had 20-inch, we had 21, and you're buying 21-inch LCDs for $11,000, $12,000. Okay. Today, let's fast forward all the way today. I'm buying 84-inch 4K displays for less money than that, right? So you're just constantly seeing that migration, right? We're seeing the migration in resolutions. 4K is now starting to become stronger and stronger. It's still not there. Everybody's over here talking about 8K, and then you start talking about OLEDs and QLEDs and full LEDs. I mean, I did a presentation earlier today and talking about all of the different display technologies, right? There's so many things going on. It's all going to be driven by the applications and needs of people who attend shows like this, right? They're going to drive us as a manufacturer to say, well, I need higher brightness, thingamajob that's 900 inches, this. Okay, well, how do you design to that? Really where the focus needs to shift and how I think the industry is kind of taken the wrong direction. We've all talked about, well, I have a 48, well, I have a 49 inch, well, I have a 50 inch. We should be talking about platforms. What are the platforms that a retailer wants? What is a platform that a restaurant wants? Just because they have historically about 46s, does that necessarily mean that's what they really want? Maybe they actually need a stretch out display that can go a full length of the menu board, and they're only having to install one display. Or maybe they want to look at projection for that. So we need to really listen more, and that's what's going to drive a lot of our technology over the next 10 years. I don't want to say custom world, but I think it's more of a world where it's actually designed around the pain points of the customers, right? So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to build you a custom product every time you need it, no, it's more of what are those needs that a restaurants really need to have? And then how do we as manufacturers, whether you're display companies, your mount companies, computing, how do we meet those needs? I mean, everyone says, well, I need the most powerful computer in the world. That's because they're thinking from the desktop world. They really need to look at what do they really need it to do, and what does they need the software to do. And maybe the software might have to change a little, maybe the processors have to change a little, the displays have to change a little, but now we're talking platforms and we're actually talking how do we meet pain points of customers. So it's really truly going away from being a commoditized product thought to be more solutions oriented. And that's where I think the display industry, the computer industry, the mount industry, we're all trying to get there, and that's what we really need to do over these next few years. I always hate seeing somebody come and say, well, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I have to do. And then they don't realize that there's actually maybe a better way of doing it over here, or there might be an easier way, or there's industry experts out there who can help you. So that's the first thing I would tell everybody. The other thing is network. I mean, you can never have too big of a network. Coming to DSE, networking, attending the trainings, attending the education, go to the seminars, and you might be sitting next to somebody and say, hey, what do you do? And just start building that networking. You'd be amazed. I mean, I was walking back through the DSF booth earlier, and I happened to walk in, and one of our people was talking to somebody who ended up being someone who focuses on programmatic buying. He's never been to DSE before. Well, digital out of home is a pretty important aspect of what the DSF is doing. And I looked at it and said, oh, have you met this individual? So I introduced him to 3 other people, and he goes, you know what, I got to go sign up to be a DSF member. It's all of that type of stuff, right? So it's that networking, it's building those relationships, it's being eye-open, and then really coming out there and going, here's what I'd like to do, what do you think? So instead of thinking you have all the answers, listen to everyone else and say, what do you think? How would you do this a little differently, or how would you approach it? That's what's great about DSE, is we can do that whether you're in the front row or the furthest row back. There's so many cool, different, unique ways you can do things, and that's what we have to do more as an industry. I think where we struggle as an industry is not everybody is speaking the same dialect or out of the same dictionary. And that's one of the things that we, as a DSF, we're trying to work through is look at digital out of home. And this is a really good example. When we say digital out of home, people start thinking digital signage, they go, no, we have to really look at what is digital out of home, what are those pain points that digital out of home has, right? What's a pain point of a corporate communications person? What's a pain point of a retailer? As much as it's an important part of our history and your pedigree is Digital Signage Expo, Digital Signage Federation, it's that word digital sign, those two words, digital signage. They almost just create a disservice for us. We need to really look at it and say, okay, corporate communications people, what do they really need? And from a manufacturer, from a software company, a content creation, a services company, what can the integrators do more? Because I think we need to integrate more of the integrators. Then we do the same thing at retail. We do the same thing at restaurants. And so now what you're doing is you're creating strategic lanes. And so what is our strategies as an industry towards retail? Okay, these are our strategies overall. Now, what are our strategies together? It's that who, what, where, and how, marketing 101. We need to do that as an industry. And I think that's one of the great things at the DSF. We're very primed in that position to do that, but we need to start thinking that way. We need the big guys to work more with the little guys. We as NEC, we spend a lot of time, and my team works with over 110 technology partners. Some of these companies may only do $1 to $2 million a year, but they have very focal product. They might not be a tier one partner, but we're spending a lot of time with them learning about what they do and how can we incorporate that into our business, and how can we maybe even network them with a software company, and maybe this person has this person has this, together they have something more powerful. That's what we need to start doing more. The focus, if you look at our booths and the direction that NEC takes, not just in the US and not just in Latin America and globally, is verticalization. So we look at retail as what are those pain points, and now let's pull who are the right technology partners. I don't care how big or small they are, who is the right technology partner so we can deliver the right solution for that. That's what we need to do more as an industry. We're seeing it, it's getting there, it's almost there, and then we're not just quite there, but we're getting there. And things like doing technology pavilions, having where you do webinars or hangouts where you've got the whole aspect. You don't just have 3 screen companies on there. You might have a screen guy, you might have a mount guy, you might have a kiosk guy, you might have a software guy, but we're all talking, right? And we're all talking all the different pieces. That's what we got to do more of. And that's something that we're trying to push very heavily from the DSF. One of the great things that I've gotten to enjoy in my short 3 months that feel like 10 years as chairman so far is I've gotten to talk to a lot of other associations. And I spent a lot of time with 2 associations that were trying to see where our similarities are together. And they handed me a dictionary, basically, of all the terms that they look at in their industry. And I looked at it and I go, all right, what's programmatic say? Programmatic. And I look at that and go, oh, that doesn't match what we say. And so I looked at that, just the most basic piece of it, going, how do we both define programmatic? How do we both define aspect ratio? How do we both define analytics? Once we have that common ground, it's amazing how quick we can move. And so that's something it's a very heavy focus that you're going to see from the DSF, but it's a heavy focus that even when I talk to my team, I say, guys, we need to make sure we're using the industry terms. Programmatic delivery, programmatic buying, programmatic content. We got to understand what does all those things mean. They're not the same thing. Some people just lump all programmatic into one thing. Digital out of home, not the same thing. Digital signage, it's that big term up top, but it doesn't represent everything that we do. Collaboration is a really good example. That's become the new buzzword in our industry. Everybody talks about collaborating. Well, how you might define collaboration, how I define collaboration, 2 different things. We need to fix that and bridge that. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to spend a lot of time as an industry. We have to. I talk a lot to companies, and one of my questions is, are you guys going to DSE? And I was actually emailing with somebody, a software company out of Melbourne, Australia. About a month and a half ago, I got a phone call because he had heard a webinar that I had done, and I had talked about analytics and biometrics. And so he said, will you please do a call? And I go, yeah, sure, I'd love talking to anybody. Let's go on the phone. So we started talking through it, and I said, we're going through this whole thing, and he goes, where can I see all this stuff? And I go, are you going to DSE? And he goes, what's DSE? And I go, okay, I know you're in Melbourne. You might not be used to this. And I go, here's what DSE is. And I'm explaining the whole thing. He goes, oh, I got to go. So 2 weeks ago, he calls me, he goes, I can't go. And I go, don't worry, I'm sending my boss instead. I go, perfect. And so the biggest thing I tell everybody is You want to know what the technology is doing. You want to see all the different software companies. I mean, I feel sorry for end users sometimes when they have going, I'm going to start a digital signage network, and they go, let's Google digital signage, and then they get the list of the 300 or 400 companies that are out there, and they go, where do I start? This is where you start. You should never start a digital signage project unless you've come here. This is where your digital signage project should be ideated, thought through, and start building out your plans. Who are you going to use for mounts? Well, all the mount guys are here. Who are you going to use for displays? Display guys are here. Who are you going to use for software? A very large portion of the software guys are here. Who are you going to use for content? They're all roaming around here. That's where you start your project. And then on top of all that stuff, look at all the education. I mean, this year, I think you guys even doubled the education. It feels like, I know I'm teaching multiple classes. I'm seeing our people doing it. It's amazing. And I'm listening to everybody saying, I'm learning so much more. That is what I tell people about DSE. That's why you got to come. This is where you're going to ideate your projects. This is where you're going to learn about what the industry does. And in the end, this is also where you're going to network with a lot of us. And it might be 1 in the morning when you're meeting somebody, but you're building out a network and a relationship. And that's really key to be successful. Currently, I sit as the chairman of the DSF. It's it's very interesting because unlike a lot of associations, you usually have your president or chairman. They're there for like forever, right? We're run by our members. So you are elected onto the board, and you get elected onto the executive, and you move up the ranks, and eventually you come off the board. But our goals are you're always still involved, right? And those of us who become chairman, you'll see us roaming around with green jackets. So somebody I think called it the Hogwarts jackets earlier today. But the benefits are really interesting. It depends on who you are. And so we really tiered out our membership. So if I'm an end user, my benefit is I'm going to know who to talk to, and I'm going to connect with the consultants, I'm going to connect with the suppliers, I'm going to know about the certification programs, I'm going to attend all those different things, and we're helping build out that, because DSE is these 2, 3, 4, 5 days a year in Vegas. DSF is year round. So we're doing a lot of that stuff, getting information out there for the end user community, right? Now, if I'm a consultant or I'm an integrator, they're getting the benefits because they're getting access to events, they're getting access to the end users, they're getting access to training. Integrators, it's so important to be properly trained. How do you install a digital sign properly? How do you service? How do you maintain it? How do you build your business plan around it? So that's a huge benefit for those guys. The consultants, hello, they get to come here because they get to meet all of their customers, right? As a manufacturer, our goals, how do we drive business? How do we drive the industry and things like that? Our big benefits, obviously we get access to discounts for attending the shows. We get access to reports, market trend information. We get access to networking. We get access to end users. Everybody gets access to discounted training. I mean, that's a massive benefit. One of the things that I challenge our board, and it's kind of interesting this year, we have a very heavy end user board this year, which is really kind of nice, because I'm really challenging them. How do we make it more attractive for you guys? We know how to make it attractive for manufacturers. We get more of you, it becomes more attractive to us, right? But how do we make it more attractive to you? On top of that, we have an integrator, and we have somebody from the sign industry, and we have a distributor. All 3 of those areas, from the channel perspective, are now on the board. So now I go to them and say, how do I make it attractive for the resellers to be part of this, the integrators, the sign companies? How do we do that? So I challenge those guys. And it's amazing. We're talking about education. We're talking about certification. We're talking about standardization. That's what people want. And you take all that, and the international guys are asking us for the same thing. So it's the benefits are it's wide. But it's also based on where you sit in the food chain, but it's also based on how you make it, right? So if you want to join the DSF just to join the DSF, you're not going to get a benefit. You're going to walk around with this pin on. But you join the DSF to grow your business, and you're going to engage, and you're spending time at the events. That's where your benefits start really populating. Whether you're an end user, a supplier, manufacturer, it doesn't matter. That's where the benefits really start shining.